Hello, today we're going to talk about Rhynchostylis gigantea, this beauty here in front of me. If you're curious to know a little bit more about this type of orchid, please hang with me. I'll talk a little bit more about this plant and some of its highlights, and then we will explore it together. Shall we? This beauty here with me is from the tropical forest of Southeast Asia. So if you think about the tropical forest of Thailand, Cambodia, that's where the species come from. It's a beautiful fundaceous type of orchid that produces a cluster of blooms. That's why this orchid is also known as the foxtail orchid, because of this cluster. Then you can imagine a tail of a fox running in your backyard. I don't know, people think it looks like one. I don't know if you can see the resemblance, but yeah, we are quite creative beings. The most interesting feature of this orchid is the cluster of flowers, because not only they can be quite interesting when we think about the petals, that in my case they are full of dots, and we have one lobed lip as well on the white background. The amount of flowers between 15 and 30, and they can be in bloom for you in between 1 to 2 months, which is amazing. But on top of that, it is fragrant. So Rhynchostylis, they are known for having a fragrance between citrus and spicy. So if that's something that you enjoy, that you like, you would love this plant. Some people find that the fragrance can be overwhelming, and other people love it. I do believe it's a personal thing, like most of the fragrance around us. I love the citrus tone. The first time that I smelled it, I felt like a lemony orangey. But then when you're close to it for a long period of time, I start noticing the spicy as well. The spice is not really the type of fragrance that I love, but not overwhelming. It can be in my living room and I won't notice, which is good, only if I'm really close to it. I am quite sensitive to fragrance, so if you are as well, maybe these tips will be useful for you. Another thing that's really interesting about this plant is that they usually require a drop in temperature to be able to bloom. I read some blogs and articles online that are saying that usually these plants, they bloom between February, March, but in my case, I live in London. London is more towards the coolest temperature. The temperature here have been below 15 degrees Celsius for a while now. So all my Phalaenopsis is spiked, and I have loads in bloom already. And it's the same thing for my Vandas. This has spiked and it's bloomed for me in December. But again, because my temperature has been low for a while, for at least 2 months now. Let's talk about other features of this plant. Not only about the beautiful blooms, who doesn't enjoy beautiful blooms, but in order for us to bloom these plants indoors, we need to know a little bit about the plant in itself. So this is also an epiphyte orchid, which means it blooms on top of trees, tree trunks, and produce aerial roots. So it's adapted to grow on air. So every time you pot this plant, it's very important to bear in mind that you need to pot in a type of medium that is the same type of medium that you pot all of your other epiphyte orchids. In my case, I use bark and Sphagnum moss. It works for me with my Vandas and Phalaenopsis. I tend to use more bark than moss because here is quite cool and humid, especially now during winter. So they don't dry up so fast, so quickly. To avoid root rot, I place more bark in the medium. And my plants, they adore, they love it. This plant came potted in charcoal like 1 year ago. I haven't repotted it yet. Terrible, I know. I've been postponing it for a while. And now it's bloomed, so I won't be able to repot it now. But I will repot it so probably in springtime, and I will film it. But yeah, it is potted in charcoal, so if you have experience with charcoal, I'm sure it will be fine, because this plant has been growing roots and it's doing super well in charcoal as well. But the medium is pretty old, so I need to repot it at some point. This plant is also a monopodio, so like Phalaenopsis and Vandas, that it grows one leaf on top of the other one. Instead of creating pseudobulbs and fronds, this one will create leaves, and it doesn't have any structure to store water like Cattleyas or Oncidiums. However, this plant has pretty thick leaves and thick roots. That's why they can, although they don't have pseudobulbs and fronds and structures to store water, they can store water in their own structure, that's the leaves and roots. They are extremely sturdy. The leaves are leathery, which is great because these plants, they come from, as I said in the beginning of this video, tropical forests, so they are hot, warm to hot growing type of orchid. Inside our living room, we usually offer intermediate temperature. That's the ideal temperature for these orchids. They don't enjoy being outside when it's winter if you live in a cool country because they are not adapted to frozen conditions. Just to let you know, don't let your plants outside and they may die if they are exposed for, I don't know, some snowy days, or these are not a type of orchid for you to experiment with that. But if you have a bright living room, for example, they will adore, they will love it, they will do super well. Talking about it, I've already told you that the leaves are pretty thick. They are monopodial orchids. The roots, they need to have air. Sorry about the noise outside, it's pretty noisy here. The roots, they need some air to be able to grow healthily and also to be moist when you notice that the median is dry. Something very important about Rhynchostylis gigantea, it's light. There is a difference in relation to light compared to big vandas. Big vandas, they need pretty bright, sometimes direct sunlight. They want not midday sunlight during summertime because you can burn the leaves of your vanda, but it will love to be exposed to pretty bright light. These creatures here, they can be exposed to indirect sunlight and they will grow and become mature plants and still bloom for you, what they prefer. So I think that's the difference. You can play around more with these ones. You can leave the brightest spot near your windowsills. For cattleyas and vandas, they need the bright light to be able to bloom healthily. These ones can be further down. You can cover, sheer the light with a curtain, or place where somewhere will receive some bright light but indirect sunlight. And I think that's one of the main differences between the big vandas and these vandaceous. Another thing is that's not a massive plant. It's more towards the medium-sized type of vandaceous, which is great because the massive vandas, if you live in a flat like I do, I have, I think, 4 big vandas in my flat, and that's a lot. To be honest, I don't have space for them. It's pretty hard for me to offer adequate light because they don't fit on windowsills. They're pretty large. But with the Rhynchostylis, it's nice because they fit in more places. You can place it on your shelving, again on your windowsill, in some coffee tables. So in this sense, it's pretty versatile, and it's amazing because it's also beautiful, produce beautiful flowers, and the foliage, it's quite similar to Phalaenopsis and vandas in the sense that they are monopodial and everything else. So they are pretty versatile, more adaptable. You can place them in a diverse of different space in your home. Each loves its humidity, but each won't suffer if the humidity in your house is not very high. You don't need to use any gadget, humidifier, or anything of the sort. If you grow it in your living room with intermediate temperature, with the humidity that you have in your house, it will love it so much. You just need to look into the roots, see if they are gray, if they need some water, and water them whenever you check that the median is dry and the roots need some water to be hydrated. It will enjoy it. Also, don't forget to fertilize it as well. Vandas, usually they are heavy feeders, so they need and they enjoy their fertilizing. And that's what I want to show you. This beauty here, it's a very different and interesting type of orchid. Let me know if you have one, and if you decide to buy one or someone gift it to you, I'm sure you'll be able to be successful with it. I find it a very easy plant to look after. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear more from you, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.